Tonight, we begin our journey a gentle descent back into a time long forgotten, to a world filled with the distant echoes of history. Imagine yourself transported back to the year 1325, a time when the world was ruled by the simple rhythm of survival. The days are long and the nights are cold. You wake up not to the soft warmth of your bed, but to a chilling reminder that comfort is a luxury few can afford. Before you even open your eyes, you can feel the cold creeping into your bones. The walls of your humble hut are thin, made of wood and thatch, and the morning air is already seeping in, wrapping itself around your body. There's no insulation, no cozy blanket to pull up over your head. Your bed? It's nothing more than a rough, flattened pile of straw, which has been worn down over time. It's uncomfortable, stiff, and the faint scent of the barn it once was lingers in the air. The straw pokes through your wool blanket, and as you stir, you can't help but feel the coldness of the world outside wrapping itself around you, even in the privacy of your own room. There's no pillow to cradle your head. What you sleep on is not soft cotton, but rough, unyielding straw. Your blanket? It's a thick woolen cover, but it's heavy with months of unwashed memories, weighed down with dirt and sweat. It's been through seasons of use, and its warmth has long since faded. You pull it closer, but it offers no comfort. The fire from the night before has already burned down to embers, offering nothing more than the faintest hint of warmth, which seems to evaporate the moment you sit up. You can already feel the cold air against your bare skin. The first sound that greets you is not a gentle chime or a bird's song. It's the harsh clang of the village church bell. It rings across the sleepy village, a sharp, demanding call that pulls you from your half-sleep. There's no snooze button, no moment to linger in that peaceful place. The world outside has already woken up, and you're late. There's no room for idleness here. You rise reluctantly to face the cold world beyond your door. As you stretch, your body protests. Every joint creaks as though made of old wood. Your knees crack, your back aches, and you can't help but wonder how you could be so young, yet already feel the weight of so many years. You're only 22, still in the prime of your life, yet in this world it is considered middle age. The aches you feel now, they only get worse with time. The morning air is bitterly cold. It seeps through the cracks in the wooden walls, chilling your skin as you sit up. Your breath forms little clouds in front of you, a reminder that warmth is something far away, something you'll have to work for, rather than find waiting for you. The floor beneath you is hard, cold, and unforgiving. It's a stone floor that has been worn down by countless years of use, and as you place your bare feet on it, they feel as if they are touching ice. There's no carpet, no rug to cushion your steps, just cold, harsh stone. You look around the small room. It's shared by your entire family, and possibly a few relatives who've overstayed their welcome. The space is cramped, the air thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, wet wool, and the faint odor of animal dung from the animals that live with you. Chickens cluck nearby, and a goat's bleat echoes in the corner. Your neighbors are close enough that you can hear their every movement, every breath, every cough, every whisper. There is no privacy here, no space to retreat to. You rise, but as you move, you bump into someone else, your sibling, perhaps, or a cousin who shares the same fate. There's no room for anything but togetherness, even if that means enduring the cold together. The cold is constant. It doesn't let up, even when you leave the warmth of your bed. The hut is your refuge, but it does little to shield you from the forces of nature. The wind howls through the gaps in the walls, and the thatch on the roof, patched together with whatever materials were at hand, offers no real protection. The chill that bites at your skin follows you wherever you go. Even when you venture out to face the day, the cold is there, sharp and unrelenting. The bell rings again, but this time it's not a call to wake up. It's a reminder that time is slipping away. The world outside is already at work, and you can feel the pressure of the day bearing down on you. There is no time to rest. The cold keeps you awake. The work demands your attention. And yet, you can't help but wonder, will there ever be a time when warmth, comfort, and rest will be yours? The cold lingers around you as you rise from your bed of straw, your body stiff from the chill that has already set in. The first thing you must do is get dressed, but in this world, there is no choice. You don't open a closet, carefully selecting your outfit for the day. You wear what you have. Your wardrobe consists of one set of clothes, a woolen tunic that has seen better days. It's heavy, rough to the touch, and scratchy against your skin. It's not designed for comfort, but for survival. The tunic is worn in places, faded from years of constant use, but it is the only thing that will protect you against the elements. You pull the tunic over your head, feeling the rough fabric press against your skin. The wool rubs against your arms, leaving a slight itch wherever it touches. Beneath the tunic, if you're fortunate, you have a linen shift. But if you're like most, the linen is too expensive, too rare to find, so you go without. The fabric of the tunic, coarse and unyielding, becomes your second skin, your only barrier against the bitter cold that waits outside your door. The cold does not wait. It lingers, gnawing at your bones as you dress. There is no warmth from beneath, no soft layer to make the wool more comfortable. The wool is thick, and you feel it pull at your muscles, pressing against your body, reminding you of the long day ahead. You adjust the tunic, tightening it as best you can, trying to seal out the cold that continues to seep through every crack in your walls. Your shoes, if you even have them, are made from cracked leather, thin and brittle, barely able to protect your feet from the harsh ground. But shoes are a luxury, a rarity in this world. For most, the ground is felt directly beneath bare feet, the cold stone or frozen dirt biting into the skin. You trudge through the muck and snow with each step, the cold creeping up from the ground, making your legs heavy, your feet numb. The leather of your shoes has long lost its suppleness. They are cracked and weathered, much like the world around you. With every step, they scrape against the rough terrain, the soles worn thin by years of use. The ground offers no reprieve, whether it's the sharp rocks, the frozen mud, or the thorns that tear at your feet. Every step is a reminder of the harshness of this life. The process of dressing feels like armor. These clothes, as uncomfortable and rough as they are, serve as your protection. But there's no joy in wearing them. There is no moment of comfort as you pull on your woolen tunic or wrap the fabric around your body. Your skin aches from the scratch of the wool. Your muscles protest with every movement. This is not the kind of clothing that embraces you. It's the kind of clothing that forces you to endure. When you finally finish dressing, you glance at yourself in the reflection of the small, cracked window. There is no mirror here. What you see is a pale version of yourself, wrapped in layers of wool and grime, with dirt beneath your nails that no amount of washing can remove. There is no softness in your face, no ease in your expression. There is only the harsh reality of survival. Your face is weathered, your body hardened by years of labor, and your eyes, though tired, show the silent determination to keep going. You glance at your hands. They are calloused, worn, covered in blisters from the constant labor you endure. There's dirt beneath your nails, ingrained deep in the creases of your skin. No matter how much you scrub, it stays there, a permanent mark of the life you lead. Your hands are not delicate. They are not soft. They are the hands of someone who works, someone who has no choice but to labor through the harshest of conditions. The sensation of itching continues. You feel it at the back of your neck, beneath your tunic, beneath your woolen socks. It's not just the discomfort of wearing rough clothing. It's the knowledge that fleas and lice live within the seams of your clothes, tucked into the folds of the wool. They bite at your skin, leaving marks that itch endlessly. The scratch of your nails becomes a natural motion, one you don't even think about. It's just part of life now. You tug at the tunic one last time, trying to pull it down to cover the spots that have already started to chafe. You pull on your shoes, and you brace yourself for the cold. Your feet are already cold, and they will stay that way. There is no warmth waiting for you outside, no place of comfort to take refuge. The day has begun, and the cold is just one of the many challenges that await you. As you step outside, the wind hits you immediately. It's cold, biting, relentless. The wind stings your face, carrying with it the smell of the earth and the animals that share your world. There's no escape from it. The wool of your tunic offers no protection from the cold wind. Your skin burns beneath the cold air, and you pull your cloak tighter around yourself, wishing for warmth that will never come. The moment you step outside, the cold air bites deeper into your skin. The world around you is silent, frozen in time, except for the faint sounds of the morning, the low hum of cattle moving in the fields, the clucking of chickens, and the occasional bleat of a sheep in the distance. There is no room for luxury here. There is no time to stand still, to linger in comfort. The day has already begun, and with it, the endless demands of work. The ground beneath your feet is frozen solid, the earth stiff and unyielding. Even in early spring, when the frost begins to retreat, the soil is heavy, hardened by months of winter's grip. You glance at the fields ahead of you. What little crops you have planted are still buried beneath the snow, still waiting for the sun's warmth to coax them to grow. But the sun is weak and distant, hardly a comforting presence in the sky. Even when it shines, it offers little respite from the biting cold. There is no reprieve from the work. There is no moment where you can pause, take a breath, and relax. From sunrise to sunset, there is always something to be done. You must gather firewood, tend to the animals, and care for the land. Your body feels the weight of each task, each movement stretching your muscles until they are sore, until they threaten to give out. But still, you push forward. Your first task is always the same: gathering water. The well is at the edge of the village, and it's not a quick journey. The path to the well is muddy, frozen in places, and filled with deep ruts that make each step a chore. The bucket you carry is heavy, but it must be filled if the family is to survive another day. There's no water flowing through pipes, no faucet to turn on with the push of a button. Instead, you must rely on the well-hard-earned, back-breaking labor just to retrieve what should be a simple necessity. As you draw the water, you glance around. The village is small, made up of huts that stand clustered together like old friends, sharing the weight of the world. But none of these homes are free from the cold. Each one is a small prison, a space that can barely hold the warmth it needs to survive the night. The wood of the walls is thin, warped with age. The roofs leak when it rains, and in the winter, they are barely enough to keep out the frost. The chimney that would carry smoke out of the hearth is often clogged, and the air inside your home is thick with soot and smoke. The fire you use for warmth is never quite enough, no matter how much wood you throw into it. You carry the water back to the hut, your muscles burning with every step. By the time you arrive, your hands are numb, and the bucket seems to weigh even more than it did when you left. But there is no time to rest. The animals need to be fed, and the fire needs to be stoked. You feed the chickens, giving them scraps from the previous day's meal, anything that might keep them alive, that might keep them laying eggs. The pigs are less picky, grunting as you toss scraps into their pen. The goats follow you as you move around, bleating for attention, for food. But your work does not stop with the animals. There are fields to tend to, if the weather allows. The plow, ancient and worn from years of use, sits idle in the corner of the yard. You push it through the soil, digging into the frozen earth with all the strength you can muster. Every stroke is a struggle, every turn of the wheel a reminder of how little power you have in this world. The soil is thick, resistant to the plow, and with each turn, you feel the muscles in your arms begin to scream. You pause just for a moment to catch your breath, and in that moment, you wonder if it's worth it. The ground is so hard, the work so grueling, that the thought of quitting crosses your mind. But there is no quitting. There is no room for hesitation. To stop means to fail, to lose what little ground you have. The cold continues to gnaw at you, urging you forward, reminding you that there is no warmth to be found here. The fields must be plowed. The animals must be fed. The work must continue. And so, you keep moving. Your hands grip the plow with renewed determination. The fields, though stubborn, slowly begin to yield to your efforts. The earth begins to give way beneath the metal blades of the plow, and you press on, fighting the cold, fighting the earth, fighting the weariness that creeps into your body with every movement. As the day stretches on, the sun climbs higher in the sky, but it doesn't bring warmth. It simply casts a weak light across the barren land, illuminating the struggle beneath your feet. You wipe the sweat from your brow, but it's not just the heat that you feel. It's the weight of the labor, the weight of the cold, and the weight of survival. The day is not over, not by a long shot. You must tend to the crops, care for the animals, and keep the fire alive. There's no end in sight. You pause for just a moment to catch your breath. The world around you is quiet, save for the distant clatter of tools and the muffled sounds of animals. The silence is broken only by the sound of your own breathing, your chest rising and falling as you try to steady your body. There is no rest. There is no time to pause. But in that brief moment, you are reminded of the simple beauty of the world, the raw, unyielding beauty of nature, of the land that sustains you, even as it fights against you. You are part of this world, bound to it by the rhythm of labor and survival. And so, you continue. You work through the aches in your muscles, through the cold that wraps itself around your body. You work through the weariness, through the hunger, and through the relentless demands of the land, because you have no choice. This is life. The work never stops, and neither does the gnawing hunger. As the hours slip by, your stomach begins to growl, reminding you of the constant scarcity that defines your life. But food is not something you can take for granted here. It is a luxury that comes only after hours of toil, and even then, it is never enough to fill the emptiness inside. You shuffle back to your hut, the cold air biting at your face, and think of the small meal you'll have. It will not be much, but it is all you can hope for. Your family, those who share this cramped space with you, are already preparing what little they can. There are no rich spreads of bread, cheese, and meat here. There is no roast chicken or fresh fruit. No, in your world, food is simple and often dull. Pottage is the staple meal-thick, hearty, and filling, though far from enjoyable. It's made from whatever grains you have available: barley, oats, rye. Sometimes it is mixed with whatever vegetables can be scraped together from the sparse harvest, or foraged from the edges of the village. On the rare occasion, there might be meat, a bit of chicken or pork, if you are lucky enough to have something left over from the butcher or the occasional hunting trip. But more often than not, the pottage is a mix of grains, roots, and whatever remnants can be found. The meal is a dull grayish color, unappealing to the eye, and often just as unappealing to the taste. The texture is thick and gloopy, sticky in your mouth as you chew. There is no salt to flavor it, no herbs to make it taste like something other than what it is: sustenance. Your family eats together, the same bowl passed between each pair of hands, eating in silence, too hungry to speak. It is never enough to satisfy you, but it keeps you going, at least for a while. The bread, when you have it, is hard and dry, like chewing on a piece of wood. You can break off small pieces and dip them into your pottage, but that only lasts so long. The bread becomes tough and stale after a few days, hardening in the damp air of your hut. You've learned to work around it, nibbling at the bread when it's softened just enough. using it to sop up the last bits of stew at the bottom of your bowl. But the food is never filling. The hunger always remains, gnawing at your insides, reminding you that there's never enough to truly satisfy. You go to bed with an empty stomach, your body craving anything to make it feel full, but there is nothing. This is the way of things. This is how life is for a peasant. Every day is a struggle to find enough to eat, to gather enough from the land to survive another day. And when the harvest comes, you're forced to scrape together what you can, hoping that the weather will be kind enough to provide just enough. The ale is weak, a watery brew that offers no real refreshment. It's brewed to purify the water, to make it safer to drink, but it has nothing like the ales from stories or the fancy meads you've ever heard of in the taverns. This ale is brown and murky, and the taste is flat, sour even. But it is the safest drink you have, as the village's water is often filled with parasites, and there's no other choice. The taste is bitter, like the rest of your life, but you drink it because it will not harm you. As the day wears on, you feel the hunger return slowly. It's a constant companion, always there at the back of your mind, reminding you that what little you have is never enough. The children, too, feel the pangs of hunger, their thin bodies barely able to keep up with the energy demands of a long day's work. They eat the same meal you do: pottage and dry bread, a slice of cheese when the family is fortunate enough to have it. It is not enough for them, not enough for anyone. The hunger is felt by everyone, but there is no escape from it. There is no abundance, no feast at the end of the day. There is only the knowledge that you are surviving, just barely. The livestock, your animals, are similarly underfed, as they share the same scarce resources. The sheep, the cows, and the goats all have their own share of the meager scraps, but it's never enough to keep them strong. They graze on whatever they can find: dry grass, the remnants of last season's harvest. The cows produce less milk in the winter. The sheep are thinner than they should be, and the pigs seem to grow sluggish as their food dwindles. But still, you feed them because they are a source of food, a source of survival. The firewood is another thing you constantly fight for. The cold is unrelenting, and the fire is the only thing that keeps you warm. You must chop wood daily, gathering it from the nearby forest, hauling it back to your hut to stoke the fire. The fire is small, but it provides warmth, light, and the ability to cook. Without it, you'd freeze. You feed it with whatever you can find: dry wood, twigs, even animal dung when the wood runs out. The fire crackles, but it never truly provides enough warmth to make the air comfortable. As you sit by the fire, your hands cold and stiff from the work of the day, you reflect on the nature of your life. Every day is a struggle for survival. Every day is a fight to make it through. The food, the fire, the warmth, they are never enough. There's always something missing, always something more that you need. But you carry on because there is no other choice. There is no other option but to keep going, to keep struggling, to survive. The cold is not just a passing inconvenience. It is the ever-present companion of every peasant who lives in these harsh conditions. It is the invisible force that rules your world, the oppressive weight of winter that hangs over you, shaping your daily life, your work, and your survival. You feel it in the morning as you rise from your straw bed, stiff and sore, unable to escape its grasp. You feel it as you step outside and face the frozen ground. The cold is everywhere, all the time, and it never relents. The moment you leave the warmth of your hut, it strikes you like a physical blow. The air is sharp, cutting into your skin like a blade. The wind howls through the village, swirling around your body, making every movement harder, every breath colder. It carries with it the smell of the earth, of wet leaves, of animal dung. But it is the cold that dominates everything, the way it freezes your breath, the way it numbs your hands and feet. There is no escaping it. You're dressed in wool, as much as you can bear, but the layers are not enough. They are thick, heavy, but they offer only a small amount of protection against the biting air. The wool rubs against your skin, making you itch, but that's nothing compared to the cold that seeps into your bones. Every breath you take feels like it's laced with ice, the cold entering your lungs, making you feel like you're suffocating. You pull your cloak tighter around yourself, but it barely helps. The cold is relentless, no matter how many layers you wear, no matter how tightly you wrap yourself. The cold is there when you work in the fields. The ground beneath your feet is frozen solid, unyielding to the plow, and your fingers are numb as you grip the handle of your tools. You've tried to push through it, but the cold makes everything harder. Every movement feels sluggish, like your body is dragging through thick mud. You struggle to keep going, knowing that you cannot stop, that the work must be done. But the cold makes it feel impossible. Your muscles ache, your joints feel stiff, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot escape the biting chill. It is in the evening that the cold truly becomes unbearable. As night falls, the temperature drops even further, and the world around you becomes a place of frozen shadows. The fire in the hearth struggles to keep the chill at bay, but it never truly succeeds. The flames flicker weakly, casting long shadows across the room, and you huddle around it, wishing for warmth that never comes. The smoke fills the room, and you cough, but the fire is your only chance at survival. Without it, you would freeze, and so you endure the smoke, the discomfort, and the cold, because there is no choice. You try to sleep, but the cold doesn't let you. You lay on your straw bed, wrapped in woolen blankets, but it doesn't matter. The cold seeps in, creeping through every gap in the walls, every crack in the roof. You feel it on your face, on your exposed fingers and toes. Even with all the layers, you cannot escape it. The straw beneath you offers no warmth, no comfort. It is hard, cold, and unforgiving. The woolen blankets, heavy as they are, don't seem to do much. You toss and turn, trying to find a position that will make you feel warm, but it's impossible. You think of the fire, still burning weakly in the corner of the room, and wish you could move closer to it. But there is no space. The room is cramped with family, with animals, all seeking the same warmth. The heat from the fire doesn't reach you where you lie. It's a cruel reminder that even the smallest comfort is beyond your reach. You close your eyes and try to sleep, but the cold keeps you awake, your body stiff and aching from the strain of the day. You wonder how long you can endure this. Outside, the wind howls and the trees sway in the frozen air. The night is long, and the cold seems to stretch on forever. The snow falls silently, coating everything in a thick layer of white. It's beautiful, in a way, but it's also suffocating. The snow doesn't just cover the earth, it covers your world, turning it into a frozen wasteland, a place where survival is a constant struggle. In the morning, when you rise again, the cold has not gone away. It is still there, waiting for you, always present, always reminding you that it will never leave. You pull yourself from your straw bed once more, stiff and aching, your muscles protesting against the effort. The fire in the hearth is nothing more than embers now, and you know that you must gather more wood, more fuel, to keep it alive. The day stretches ahead of you, filled with work, filled with more cold, more hunger, more hardship. But you have no choice. You must continue, because in this world, the cold is not something that can be avoided. It is something that must be endured. And so you pull on your woolen tunic, step out into the cold, and begin another day of survival. The cycle never ends. The cold never stops. The day winds down slowly, and with it, the light begins to fade, casting long shadows across the land. The sun sinks beneath the horizon, and the cold creeps back in. But as the workday ends, there is little relief to be found. The struggle to survive doesn't end with the setting sun. It merely shifts from one form of hardship to another. The transition from labor to rest is not an easy one. As night falls, You return to your cramped hut, carrying with you the weight of the day. You've worked from dawn until dusk, every minute filled with physical toil, tending to the animals, gathering wood, chopping and carrying water, working the fields, preparing the fire, and so much more. The hunger is constant, the cold unyielding, and your body is weary from the endless demands. There is no time for relaxation, no time for comfort. All that remains is the need to rest, to close your eyes and allow your body to recover, if only for a few precious hours. You make your way inside, pulling the door shut behind you, trapping the cold outside, but only for a moment. The hut is crowded, filled with family members, and perhaps some extended relatives or neighbors who've come to seek shelter from the cold. The small space offers no privacy. You are surrounded by the warmth of bodies, the smell of sweat and earth, of wood smoke and animal fur. The fire crackles in the corner of the room, but it offers only fleeting warmth. It's not enough to chase away the chill that clings to the walls, the floor, the air itself. You take your place on the straw bed, lying down with a sigh of exhaustion. The straw is hard, uneven, and offers no comfort to your weary bones. It's a bed made from the earth itself, a bed that has seen many seasons, many nights of rest and wear. It is not soft, nor does it smell clean. Instead, it smells of dampness, of animal waste, of the dirt and dust that accumulate over time. Yet, it is your bed, the only bed you have, and there is no other option. The blankets, though thick, are rough and scratchy. They do little to protect you from the cold that seeps in through every crack in the walls. You pull them up as best you can, but they offer little warmth. You are surrounded by the warmth of others, your family, the livestock, even the animals, but it is fleeting. The warmth shared between bodies is temporary. It fades quickly, leaving only the biting cold to fill the space once more. You close your eyes, trying to ignore the discomfort of the straw beneath you, the cold that creeps into your bones. You lie still, hoping for sleep, for rest, but it doesn't come easily. The cold is too persistent, too overpowering. The ache in your body from the day's labor refuses to fade. Every muscle protests, every joint aches, and you know that tomorrow will bring more of the same, more work, more exhaustion, more hunger. But you are too tired to think about that now. Your eyelids grow heavy, and you try to focus on the warmth of the bodies surrounding you. The fire, though weak, still burns, its flickering light casting shadows on the walls. The crackling of the flames is the only sound in the room, other than the soft breathing of those around you. It's a quiet, soothing sound, but it is not enough to drown out the cold that persists, lingering in the corners of the room. Sleep is a luxury, something that comes not out of comfort, but necessity. You sleep not because you want to, but because your body demands it. Your mind may be restless, filled with thoughts of the day to come, of the work that awaits you, of the hunger that is always present. But your body aches for rest, for relief. The pull of sleep is strong, and so you succumb to it, drifting in and out of a restless slumber. The cold doesn't let up. It presses against you, even in your sleep. You stir, trying to find a position that offers some warmth, but it's impossible. The straw beneath you is hard, unforgiving. The woolen blankets are heavy, but they don't offer enough protection against the cold. You shift again, curling into yourself, trying to conserve body heat. But it's not enough. The cold seeps in through every crack in the walls, through the roof, through the spaces between your blankets, wrapping around your body like a second skin. And still, you sleep, if you can call it sleep. It's not restful, not peaceful. It's interrupted by the cold, by the hunger, by the noise of the room around you. The people, the animals, the sounds of the night, none of it allows for true rest. The small room is filled with the hum of bodies, with the sound of snoring, of shifting, of breathing. You're not alone, and yet the night feels long, isolating. In the morning, when the light begins to creep through the cracks in the walls, you awaken not to the softness of a well-rested body, but to the stiffness of a night spent battling the cold. Your body aches, your muscles sore from the previous day's work. Your mind feels foggy, not quite awake, but there is no time to linger. The day waits for no one, and you must rise, just as you have every day before. But there is something in the quiet of the night that stays with you, a reminder of the struggle, the cold, the discomfort, the exhaustion. These are the things that define your life. And even in sleep, you cannot escape them. Water is a lifeline, a necessity, and a constant reminder of how limited your resources are. In the medieval world, there is no running tap, no faucet to simply turn and expect clean water to flow. Water must be gathered, carried, and treasured. It is not something to be wasted, for in a world like this, every drop counts. The well is the heart of the village, but it is far from convenient. It's a long walk from your hut, a task that requires physical labor just to get the water you need for the day. Every morning, before the work of the day begins, you make the journey to the village well. The path is muddy and rough, winding through the frost-bitten fields. The cold air makes it difficult to breathe, and the weight of the empty bucket makes your arms ache as you walk. When you reach the well, you dip your bucket into the water, the cold steel of the bucket clanging against the stone. The water is freezing, and the chill of it cuts through your hands as you pull it up. The well is deep, the rope thick and rough against your skin, but it is the only source of water. It is the one thing that will keep your family and livestock alive. Once you've gathered the water, you begin the long trek back to your hut. It's exhausting. Your arms sore from carrying the full bucket, your feet slipping in the mud. The weight of the water seems to grow heavier with each step, but you must carry it. Without water, there is no food. Without water, there is no survival. The cold air, the aching body, the tiring journey, none of it matters when your family is depending on you. Back at the hut, you pour the water into wooden barrels or clay pitchers, making sure to store it carefully. There is no waste in this world. Every drop must be used cooking, cleaning, drinking, and if you're fortunate, bathing. You think about the water you've gathered and how little it seems. There's enough for the day, but there is no surplus. No room for luxury. No room for indulgence. The water is a constant reminder of how little you truly have. The idea of bathing is a luxury most people in the medieval world can only dream of. To bathe in the modern sense, to wash away the grime of the day, is something reserved for the rich, for those who have the privilege of privacy and excess. For peasants, bathing is a rare event, a far-off luxury that is not easily obtained. It takes time, it takes water, and it takes warmth, all of which are in short supply. Most peasants can only hope to wash their faces and hands in a basin of cold water, using a rough cloth or their bare hands to scrub away the dirt that accumulates over the day. The water is cold, harsh against the skin, but it is better than nothing. It is a brief moment of relief, a fleeting glimpse of cleanliness in a world that has little to offer. You wash your face as best you can, wiping away the dirt and sweat that have accumulated from the day's work, but it never feels like enough. There is no soap to help remove the layers of grime, no soft towels to dry your skin. You scrub your face, your hands, your neck, but there is no true relief. Your skin remains rough, gritty, and worn from the harsh conditions you live in. Bathing, as a practice, is a rarity in medieval life. In villages, the concept of communal bathing exists, but it's an event that happens only a few times a year, during festivals or after major harvests. Even then, the water is shared among many, and the idea of privacy is foreign. The communal bathhouse, if there is one, is often little more than a public space where people gather to clean themselves. But the water is dirty by the time it reaches you. The water is used by all, the germs and filth of countless people mixing together. The experience is uncomfortable at best, humiliating at worst. You remember stories of the rich, those who live in castles or large estates. They have baths, hot baths, where they can soak in warm water using sweet-smelling oils and soaps. They are clean, refreshed, and comfortable. But that life is far from yours. You live in a world where cleanliness is a fleeting dream, and your body, no matter how much you scrub, never seems to be truly clean. The absence of cleanliness is not just physical, it is social. In the medieval world, peasants are seen as dirty, filthy, unkempt. Their clothes are ragged, their hair matted, their faces covered in the dirt of the day's labor. But this is not something you can change. You don't have the resources to bathe regularly, to clean yourself properly. You simply do the best you can with what you have. Even when it's time to sleep, there's no relief from the dirt and grime that cling to you. The straw bed is rough against your skin, and the wool blankets do little to offer comfort. You lie in your bed, shivering from the cold, your body stiff from the labor of the day, but there is no softness in your life. There is no warmth in your clothes, no comfort in your bed. The dirt, the grime, the smell of your body, it's all a constant reminder of how little luxury you have. Yet you sleep because you must. The hunger, the cold, and the discomfort are all part of life. You don't question it. You don't complain. You lie still, close your eyes, and drift into a restless sleep, hoping that tomorrow will bring warmth, will bring food, will bring something better than the life you have now. But deep down, you know that tomorrow will be the same as today. The work will continue, the cold will persist, and the dirt will never truly leave your skin. In the medieval world, survival is not just about food, warmth, and labor. It's about power. It's about control. And in a society where the class structure is rigid and unyielding, violence, both physical and psychological, is a constant force, shaping your world in ways that you cannot escape. As a peasant, you know your place. It's one that you are born into, one that you cannot change. The lord of your land, the master who owns the fields you toil in, holds the power of life and death over you. His word is law, and he is the one who decides how much land you work, how much you produce, and how much you can keep for yourself. He is the one who decides whether you live or die. This isn't a life of equality. It isn't a life where hard work is rewarded with fair compensation. No, your life is a life of servitude, a life of subjugation to those above you in the social hierarchy. The Lord's tax collectors come regularly to your hut, demanding that you give up a portion of your harvest, a portion of your hard-earned work. If you don't, there will be consequences. There will be punishment, perhaps even a beating, and the threat of eviction from the land. Your crops, your livestock, your home, they belong to him. You are merely the worker, the laborer, the one who brings in the wealth for those who own it all. You've heard the stories of those who anger the lords. There are whispers in the village of the unfortunate few who've had their land seized, their possessions stolen, or worse, who've been publicly punished for minor transgressions. Public executions, though rare, do occur, and they serve as grim reminders of the power that the rich and powerful hold over the poor. When a lord wants to make an example of someone, he doesn't hesitate. He calls upon the local sheriff or constable, and the poor soul is dragged before the village, where they are either whipped, hanged, or worse, depending on the severity of their crime. The crowd is forced to watch, forced to be reminded that their lives are at the mercy of the nobility. The message is clear: defy the authority, and you will suffer. The justice system is as much a tool of control as it is a means of righting wrongs. Trials, if they happen at all, are often one-sided. The Lord's word is law, and the peasants have little to no say in what happens to them. If you find yourself accused of a crime, whether it's theft, disobedience, or even a petty argument with a neighbor, you may be subject to torture, not to prove your guilt, but to force a confession. Torture is a tool of the state, used not to seek justice, but to instill fear, to remind everyone that the Lord's authority is supreme. The methods are brutal and unforgiving. Stretching on the rack, burning with hot irons, the threats of being drowned or whipped. These are all part of the medieval justice system. The goal is not to find truth, but to ensure obedience. For most peasants, the mere thought of facing the Lord's wrath is enough to keep them in line. If you complain, if you speak out, if you dare to challenge the authority of those above you, you risk everything. The Lord can send his men to your house, tear down your doors, take what little you have, and leave you with nothing. Your family could be thrown into the street, your fields seized, and you could be sent to work as a serf, bound to the land forever. You've seen it happen to others, and the fear of it keeps you silent, keeps you compliant. There is no room for rebellion, no room for defiance. Survival depends on obedience. But even within the strict confines of medieval society, there are small, quiet resistances. They are not acts of open rebellion, for those are too dangerous, but subtle forms of defiance. You may refuse to pay your taxes at the appointed time, or perhaps you hide a portion of your harvest, hoping that the Lord's men won't notice. Maybe you speak out in hushed whispers in the corner of the tavern, sharing stories of injustices, quietly organizing small protests with those who understand the true weight of their suffering. But even these small rebellions come with risks. If you're caught, there are consequences. If you speak too loudly, the authorities may come for you. But for some, it is a risk worth taking. Still, you know that the Lord's control extends beyond just the material. It seeps into your psyche, shaping your beliefs, your understanding of your place in the world. The Lord holds not just the land and the crops, but also the power of religion. In a world where religion and politics are inseparable, the church holds incredible sway over the peasant's daily life. The priest, too, is a figure of power, wielding the moral authority granted to him by the Lord and the church. He enforces the belief that suffering on earth is a test, a means of securing your place in heaven. The poor are told to accept their fate, to suffer in silence, and to look forward to the reward of eternal life. Heaven, they are told, is the true prize. But for those who suffer, for those who endure, that promise often feels distant, hollow, and hard to grasp. Religion becomes a tool of control, a means to justify the suffering and hardship that peasants endure. The church preaches humility, obedience, and submission. The priest tells you that your life is not meant to be easy, that the struggle is part of God's plan. And though you may feel anger, resentment, and frustration deep in your soul, you are expected to bear it all in silence, to accept your fate, and to believe that the reward will come only after death. The church, however, does not go unchallenged. There are whispers in the corners of the village about those who question the teachings of the priest. There are hushed conversations about secret gatherings, about other beliefs, other paths to follow. But these are dangerous ideas, dangerous thoughts. To openly reject the church's teachings is to risk being labeled a heretic, a traitor, and the consequences for that are severe. The Inquisition looms in the distance, waiting to root out anyone who dares to challenge the status quo. Heretics are burned at the stake, their beliefs wiped out in an instant, their names erased from history. In the medieval world, women's lives are shaped by forces far beyond their control. Their existence is one defined by subjugation, expectations, and roles that are rigidly prescribed by both society and the church. As a peasant woman, your fate is largely sealed the moment you are born. There is no path to freedom, no clear avenue for advancement, no opportunity to break free from the cycle that has existed for generations. Your place in the world is set no questions asked, and your role is to work, to care for the household, and to bear children. From the moment you reach adulthood, your life is a series of duties, each one heavier than the last. You are expected to marry, to bear children, and to maintain the household. Your life is one of constant labor, with no room for personal desire, for personal expression, or for freedom. There is no education, no literacy, no room to think beyond the immediate demands of the day. You learn early that survival is not about personal comfort or desire, but about the cold reality of duty. As a child, your world is small. It is limited to the home, to the farm, and to the church. Your early years are spent learning the skills needed to care for your family and your land, spinning wool, weaving fabric, cooking, cleaning, and caring for animals. These skills are passed down from mother to daughter, and there is little room for deviation from the norm. You grow up watching your mother work tirelessly, seeing her body bend under the weight of the daily tasks, her hands rough and calloused from labor. You learn that this is your destiny. There is no question of what you will become. It is a continuation of your mother's life, her struggle, and her work. Once you reach puberty, your life shifts from childhood to adulthood, and with it comes the pressure to marry. In a world where marriage is more of an economic arrangement than a romantic endeavor, your value is tied to your ability to bear children and manage a household. You are a vessel for the continuation of the family line, your purpose defined by the children you will bear and the labor you will perform. When you marry, it is not for love but for survival. Your husband becomes the head of the household, and you become his helpmate, his servant. The church teaches that women are the weaker sex, subservient to men in every way. The Bible, quoted in sermons and scripture, reinforces the idea that a woman's role is to be obedient, humble, and selfless. You are told to serve your husband, to obey him, and to provide for him and the children you will bear. There is no space for rebellion, for independence, or for individuality. A woman's life is one of service, submission, and survival. Once married, you are expected to work alongside your husband. You help with the fields, gather firewood, feed the animals, and cook the meals. You manage the household, spinning wool for clothing, weaving fabric for blankets, and tending to the needs of your children. The work is endless and exhausting, and there is little room for rest. The days are long, the nights short, and the work never stops. Even when you are tired, even when your body aches, there is no time to stop, no time to rest. The demands of your role are constant, and you are expected to keep up with them. If you are fortunate enough to have children, your life becomes even more demanding. You bear children, and then you care for them, nurture them, and teach them the skills they will need to survive in a world that demands hard work and obedience. Your children's future is intertwined with your own, and it is your responsibility to ensure they grow up strong, healthy, and obedient. The demands of motherhood are brutal. Your body changes with each pregnancy, and each birth takes a toll. The risks of childbirth are high. Many women die in labor, their lives lost in the struggle to bring new life into the world. But you endure, because that is what you must do. Your children are your legacy, your purpose, and your reason for enduring. You raise them to be strong, to survive, and to perpetuate the cycle of life and labor that defines your world. But even as a mother, there is no room for joy. The children are a burden, a responsibility that consumes your time and energy. There is little time for play, for rest, or for bonding. Your role is to care for them, to feed them, to protect them, and to prepare them for the life they will lead. There is no space for personal enjoyment, no room for self-care. The demands of motherhood are all-consuming, and the toll it takes on your body and spirit is unrelenting. The idea of leisure, of relaxation, is foreign to you. There are no moments of peace, no breaks from the constant demands of work and motherhood. You are always on, always serving, always giving. The thought of sitting idly, buying and resting is almost laughable. In a world where every moment is filled with work, where every task requires your attention, there is no room for idleness. In addition to the physical demands of being a woman in medieval times, There are also the emotional and psychological burdens you must carry. The pressure to conform to the ideals of the time, obedience, humility, submission, is immense. You are told that your role is to serve others, to be selfless, to always put the needs of your family and your husband above your own. There is no room for self-expression, no room for independence, no room for personal desires. You are expected to be content with your lot, to be grateful for the work that you do, and to find satisfaction in your servitude. In this world, women have little power. They have little say in their futures, their destinies, or their lives. They are bound by their gender, their social class, and the expectations placed upon them. The church reinforces this subjugation, teaching that women's roles are divinely ordained and unchangeable. Women are meant to serve, to obey, to be silent and humble. Their lives are filled with toil and sacrifice, and any deviation from this norm is met with suspicion and hostility. But there are moments of rebellion, even in this world of constraint. Women, though often silenced by society, find ways to resist, to carve out small spaces of power for themselves. In the secrecy of the hearth, in the quiet spaces of their homes, women find ways to support one another, to share knowledge, to offer comfort. There are secret communities of women who support each other, who share wisdom passed down from mother to daughter, who resist the expectations placed upon them in the only way they can. Yet these moments are fleeting, small rebellions that must remain hidden in a world that demands obedience. The overall reality for women in the medieval world is one of submission, of labor, and of sacrifice. And though they endure, though they persist, they are never truly free. In a world defined by rigid hierarchies, survival often depends not just on hard work, but on the ability to navigate the ever-present threat of violence. The Middle Ages were far from a time of law and order as we know it today. Instead, it was a time when justice was defined by power, by who had the strength to take what they wanted, and by who could force their will on others. In a society where peasants had little say in the running of their own lives, violence was a tool often wielded by the wealthy and powerful to maintain their dominance. As a peasant, you live in constant fear of the Lord's justice. The law is not something that protects you. The law is something that controls you. The Lord of the land has the power to decide your fate. If you step out of line, if you defy him in any way, you could find yourself facing harsh punishment. The punishment could be anything from a beating, a fine, or, in extreme cases, exile or death. For the peasants, crime and punishment are not about right or wrong. They are about the will of those in power. The power that the Lord has over your life extends beyond the fields you work. He controls not just the land, but also your livelihood, your family's safety, and even your very life. If you are caught stealing, whether it's a loaf of bread or a handful of grain, the consequences could be severe. You may be fined, whipped, or imprisoned. But worse yet, if your crime is deemed unforgivable, if it threatens the Lord's authority, you could face public execution. The sword, the gallows, or even a slow, painful death by torture might await you. Crime in the medieval world is not something that happens in secret. It is public. When someone is accused of a crime, they are brought before the village for all to see. This public display is not just about punishment, it is about control. It has a message to everyone in the village that no one is beyond the reach of the Lord as law. No one is free to act on their own. The crime is not just about what you did, it's about who you are. And if the Lord believes that you are a threat to his power, you will suffer for it. The justice system of the medieval world is brutal, arbitrary, and often unjust. Trials, if they even happen, are quick and unfair. The accused rarely have a chance to defend themselves. The Lord's word is law, and if he wants you punished, there is little you can do to stop it. In some cases, the village priest may act as a judge, but even the church's influence is often limited. The church itself is tied to the landowners and the powerful elite. Justice, as it is served in this world, is rarely blind. It is always influenced by wealth, by power, by who you know and who you serve. Violence isn't always official either. In the medieval world, personal vendettas often turn violent. When disputes arise between neighbors or members of different villages, the law is seldom involved. Instead, it is settled by force. Fights break out and blood is spilled. Often, the victims are those who have no power, those who cannot fight back. These acts of violence are a sad reality for peasants, who live under constant threat from both the authorities and each other. Even in moments of peace, the tension of living in a world governed by violence never truly disappears. The village is a constant mix of hostility, distrust, and fear. The power dynamics between lords, peasants, and even fellow villagers lead to constant jockeying for advantage, always at the expense of those at the bottom of the social ladder. Your life as a peasant is constantly at risk, not just from the elements, not just from hunger or illness, but from those who seek to dominate you, to take what little you have. The threat of violence is always present, whether it's from the tax collectors who can take whatever they want from your harvest, or the local constables who enforce the Lord's laws. But there are also more direct forms of violence raids, uprisings, and even banditry. The world is filled with dangers, and sometimes the only way to survive is by aligning yourself with those who can protect you. But this protection comes at a cost. You must remain obedient, remain subservient, or else you too may become a victim of violence. As a woman, the threat of violence is even more pronounced. Women in medieval society are not just subject to the authority of the lords and the law, they are also at the mercy of the men in their lives. A woman's body is seen as property, something that can be controlled and owned. Rape and domestic violence, though not recognized as crimes in the way we understand them today, are a part of life for many women. Husbands can beat their wives, and there are few recourses for women to escape this violence. A woman's fate, her safety, is entirely dependent on the man who owns her, whether it's her father, her husband, or a lord. If she is unfortunate enough to fall out of favor with any of these men, the violence she faces can become a daily reality. Even the church, which holds such great sway over the lives of the people, does little to protect women from abuse. The church teaches that women's roles are subservient, that they are the weaker sex, meant to serve their husbands and bear children. And while the church may preach compassion and charity, it does little to intervene in the personal lives of its followers. Women, as a result, live in constant fear, not just of the external violence that may come from the authorities or bandits, but of the violence that can come from within their own homes. Justice in the medieval world is not about righting wrongs or ensuring fairness. It is about maintaining power, ensuring that the social order remains intact, and that those at the top stay at the top. For peasants, this means that justice is often out of reach. You may be punished for crimes you did not commit, and there is no recourse for unfair treatment. If you are wronged, you have little chance of seeing justice done. The law in the medieval world is not designed to protect you. It is designed to control you. In a world where violence is so prevalent, survival requires more than just physical endurance. It requires an understanding of power, how it works, how to navigate it, and how to survive within its confines. In the Middle Ages, survival is not about thriving, it's about enduring. And for many, the cost of endurance is a life spent in fear, in subjugation, and in constant struggle against the forces that seek to keep them down. Life in the medieval world is fragile, fleeting, and often short. The harshness of the environment, the constant struggle for survival, and the lack of medical knowledge all contribute to a life expectancy that is far lower than what we know today. For the majority of peasants, reaching adulthood was already an achievement. For those who lived to see old age, they were the exceptions, not the rule. As a peasant, you know that death is always lurking just around the corner. It's not a distant thought, but a daily reality. It is in the weather, in the harshness of the seasons, in the food you eat, and in the diseases that strike without warning. It is always present, watching, waiting for its moment. Every step you take, every breath you draw, is a reminder that survival is never guaranteed. The average life expectancy for a peasant in the Middle Ages was around 30 to 40 years. That may sound short by modern standards, but it doesn't capture the full picture. Many children did not survive to adulthood. The infant mortality rate was staggeringly high, with over half of children dying before reaching their 5th birthday. The reasons were numerous: poor nutrition, unsanitary living conditions, and diseases that were not understood or treatable. Plagues and epidemics would often sweep through villages, killing entire families in a matter of weeks. But even those who survived childhood had little reason to expect a long life. Your body, though strong, is constantly battered by the elements. The cold in winter and the heat in summer take their toll. The food you eat is often insufficient, lacking in vitamins and nutrients, and disease thrives in such conditions. Without proper sanitation, without clean drinking water, illnesses spread quickly. You've seen it happen in the village, the fever that grips a family, the coughing that turns into something worse, the wasting sickness that leaves bodies frail and weak. When illness strikes, there is little hope. Medicine is rudimentary, and the healers in your village have little more than herbal remedies and prayers to offer. The most common cures are often as dangerous as the diseases themselves. There are no antibiotics, no vaccines, no understanding of viruses or bacteria. A simple infection can turn fatal, an injury can become gangrenous, and a fever can lead to death within days. You've heard stories of people who fell ill, only to die in the night. You've seen the fear in the eyes of your family when someone begins to cough or complain of aches. You wonder if you too are vulnerable, if today will be the day that your body succumbs to the ravages of disease. The absence of modern medicine also means that childbirth is a perilous event. Women in medieval times had no access to the knowledge and technology that we take for granted today. Childbirth was a dangerous process, and many women died in labor, their bodies overwhelmed by the strain of bringing new life into the world. You've heard of women who were never the same after childbirth, whose health was ruined by the complications that followed. The lack of proper nutrition, the physical toll of labor, and the absence of skilled medical care meant that giving birth was often a matter of life and death. For those who survived childhood and the trials of labor, the next challenge was the grueling work of daily life. The physical strain of working the land, tending to animals, and providing for your family takes a toll on the body. The harsh weather, the endless bending and lifting, the exposure to the elements, these all shorten your lifespan. When you work from dawn to dusk, your body is constantly in motion, and the wear and tear begins to show. Your muscles become stiff and sore, your joints creak with age, even when you are young, and your back hurts from the constant labor. But it is not just the body that wears down. The constant pressure of survival, the fear of hunger, the cold that gnaws at your bones, and the ever-present risk of violence all weigh heavily on the spirit. The mental and emotional toll of living in such a harsh world can be just as debilitating as the physical strain. It's a life without respite, without time for relaxation or self-care. Your days are spent in the service of others, your family, your Lord, your community. There is no time for yourself, no moments of peace or quiet. You live in a world where survival is a daily effort, and every moment of rest feels like a luxury you can't afford. The fear of death is a constant companion, but so too is the quiet acceptance of it. You know that death is inevitable, that it will come for you just as it has come for those before you. The grim reality is that no one escapes it. When a person dies, their body is quickly prepared for burial, usually by the family, with little ceremony. There is no long mourning period, no elaborate funeral arrangements. The body is placed in a simple grave and the earth is shoveled over it. Life moves on, as it must. The dead are remembered, but only briefly. The living must continue to work, to survive. But there are those who are not so easily forgotten. The plagues, the epidemics, the battles, these are the events that claim the lives of many. They leave scars on the land, on the people, and on the memory. In your village, you remember the last outbreak of the plague. It struck with brutal force, killing entire families within days. The bodies were quickly buried, their names forgotten, their deaths a silent tragedy. You remember the fear in the eyes of your neighbors, the whispers that spread as the illness made its way through the village. The deaths were quick, brutal, and inevitable. When the disease passed, the village returned to its routine, but the scars remained. You can still feel the weight of those lost lives, even now. The fear of death is a fear you carry with you every day, but it is also a reminder of how precious life is. The knowledge that death could come at any moment, that it could take you without warning, forces you to live with an intensity, a purpose, that few will ever understand. Every day is a gift, a moment in time that you must cherish, even when that gift comes with the burden of suffering. As the years pass, you grow older, and you see your body begin to show the signs of wear and tear. Your hands, once strong and capable, now tremble with age. Your back aches from the years of labor. Your joints are stiff, and your eyesight begins to fade. You look around you at the younger generation, your children, your neighbors' children, and you know that they will face the same hardships. They, too, will live in a world where death is always just around the corner. They will face the same struggles, the same battles for survival. The cycle continues unbroken. You begin to accept that life is fleeting, that it is meant to be endured, not celebrated. But in the midst of this harsh reality, there are moments of beauty. The sunrise over the fields, the laughter of a child, the warmth of the fire on a cold night. These are the things that make life worth living. Even in the face of constant death, there is life. And as long as there is life, there is hope. As the day draws to a close, the final moments of daylight slip away, and the world around you begins to quiet. The cold of the night creeps in with an almost palpable presence, wrapping the land in its unyielding grip. The distant sounds of the village fade, replaced by the gentle creaking of your hut as the wind howls outside. The day has been long filled with work, struggle, and endurance. But now, there is only the quiet of the evening. You stand in the doorway for a moment, looking out across the fields you've worked all day. The sun has long disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving behind only a pale, dim glow on the farthest edges of the land. The sky, once full of light, now appears dark and heavy, cloaking the world in its shadow. The cold has already settled in, and the chill bites at your skin, making every movement feel like an effort. But despite the harshness of the day, there is something comforting about this moment. The stillness of the world, the quiet of the night. The day's work is over for now, and there is nothing left to do but rest. But rest is not always a luxury for the peasant. It is not something to be easily enjoyed. You can't simply lie down and drift off into peaceful slumber. There is the cold to contend with, the discomfort of your rough bed, and the knowledge that tomorrow the cycle begins again. As you walk back into your hut, the familiar sights greet you. The low, flickering fire in the hearth, the dim light casting shadows across the room, the smell of wood smoke and damp earth. The air is thick with the scent of people, your family, your neighbors, those who share the same burdens of survival. The warmth of the fire offers a fleeting comfort, but it is not enough to banish the cold that still seeps through the walls. The fire's light dances on the walls, casting strange shapes and shadows. And for a moment, you allow yourself to simply be. Your family gathers around the fire. The children sit quietly, eyes heavy with fatigue, while the adults, too, sit in silence. The work is done for the day, but the weariness is still present, etched into the faces of everyone in the room. There is no time for conversation, no time for reflection. The day has drained you, physically and mentally, and the body is too tired to think, too tired to speak. You move toward your small bed of straw, the same bed you've slept in for years. The straw is uneven, lumpy, and uncomfortable, but it is the only bed you have. You lie down, pulling your woolen blanket tightly around you. It is heavy, but it offers no warmth. You lie still for a moment, feeling the cold in the air, the cold in the walls, and the cold in your bones. You curl up as tightly as you can, trying to find a position that offers some form of comfort. But it's never enough. The cold remains. As the wind howls outside, you can hear the faint sound of the world around you settling in for the night. The animals are quiet, the children finally asleep, the fire burning low. But the cold is a constant presence, a reminder that this is no safe haven. Your body, sore and stiff from the day's work, aches for rest. But it will not come easily. The night is long, and the cold will follow you throughout your sleep. There is no luxury in your life. There is no rest from the struggle. Even as you close your eyes and let sleep take you, you know that tomorrow will be just like today. There is no end to the work, no escape from the cold, no reprieve from the hunger. The only thing that changes is the day of the week, the season, and the weather. The cycle continues. The cold will return tomorrow, the work will continue, and the fight for survival will begin anew. In this world, rest is not a time of peace. It is a brief reprieve from the endless demands of survival, a moment where the body can recover, if only for a few hours. But sleep is never truly restful. The aches in your body, the hunger in your stomach, the cold in the air, they are always with you, even in the quiet moments of the night. You may sleep, but it is never a deep, uninterrupted rest. It is always tinged with discomfort, with the knowledge that tomorrow will bring more of the same. You think of your children sleeping beside you, their tiny bodies huddled for warmth. They are young, innocent, and unaware of the harshness of the world. But as they grow, they will learn. They will learn that there is no escape from the cold, from the work, from the struggles of life. They will learn that survival is not a gift, it is something that must be fought for every single day. They will grow up just as you did, and just as their parents did before them. The cycle is endless, a loop of labor, hardship, and survival. And so, as the night stretches on, you fall into a restless sleep, the cold seeping into your bones and the weight of the day still heavy on your mind. There is no peace, no comfort. There is only survival. And you know that, when morning comes, you will rise again to face the same world, the same challenges, and the same fight to make it through. The medieval world does not offer rest. It offers only endurance. As you lay there, eyes closed, the events of the day swirl in your mind, an endless loop of labor, hunger, and cold. The fire in the hearth is now little more than glowing embers, casting faint shadows across the room. The wind outside howls, a reminder of how vulnerable you are in this world. The cold of the night seeps through the walls, wrapping itself around your body like a heavy blanket, even as you try to pull the woolen covers tighter. Yet, despite the discomfort, despite the aching body, there is a strange, quiet comfort in this moment. It's not peace. It's something more fundamental, something born out of necessity. In this life, there is no room for luxury, no room for anything other than survival. But survival itself, strangely, is a form of triumph. Each day you endure is a victory, no matter how small, no matter how fleeting. And yet, there is also a quiet understanding that this is all there is. The cycle of life is relentless. It begins with birth, continues through childhood, and leads to a life of endless toil. The harvest comes, the seasons change, and still, the labor does not stop. There is no escape from the work, no time to rest. You are born into this world to survive, to toil, to labor, and one day you will die, just as those before you have. And yet, even knowing this, you continue, because that is what life demands. It is hard to imagine anything beyond survival in this world. There are no dreams of a better life, no visions of a peaceful future. The future is a continuation of the present, a cycle that will repeat itself for generations. Your children, as much as you try to shield them, will face the same struggles, the same cold, the same hunger. They will rise each day with the same heavy burden upon their shoulders, and they too will live to work, to survive, and perhaps to repeat the same steps you have taken. The circle is unbroken, the cycle endless. You wonder, sometimes, if anything will change. You wonder if the world will ever be different for your children, for those who come after you. But deep down, you know the answer. Change comes slowly, if at all, and even when it does, it's often too little to make a difference in the lives of people like you. The rich grow richer, the powerful grow more powerful, and the rest of the world? The world continues, much as it always has. It's a harsh truth, one that no one ever says aloud, but one that is understood by all. The cold, the hunger, the hard labor, these are the things that define your world. But there is something more to this life than just survival. There is a bond that ties you to the land, to the earth beneath your feet, to the seasons that guide your life. It's a bond that runs deep, one that is rooted in centuries of tradition, in the ways of those who have lived before you. You don't question the rhythms of the earth, the changing of the seasons, the planting and the harvest. You follow them because that is the way it has always been. But even in the midst of this ceaseless cycle, there are small moments of beauty, moments that, though fleeting, remind you why you endure. A soft sunrise over the fields, the rich, warm colors of the harvest in the fall, the quiet of the evening when the world finally seems to slow down. These moments, though brief, are reminders of the life you lead, of the land that sustains you. And even when you are tired, when your bones ache and your body begs for rest, these moments offer something more than survival. They offer meaning. But these moments are not for everyone. In a world of peasants, there are few who can afford to reflect, few who can afford the luxury of thinking about what comes after the work is done. When the work is done, there is no respite. There is only the next task, the next chore, the next demand of survival. And in this life, there are few things as important as ensuring that the next day will bring more of the same. And so, life continues. Day after day, the work never ends. The cycle of labor, the cycle of survival, is endless. The cold, the hunger, the toil, they remain constant, unyielding, unforgiving. And yet, you continue. You continue because that is what life demands. There is no escape, no reprieve, but there is survival. You think of your children again, lying in their straw beds, their tiny bodies wrapped in woolen blankets, trying to find warmth in the midst of the cold. They are still young, still innocent, still unaware of the full weight of the world that awaits them. They have not yet learned that survival is a struggle, that life is a series of hardships that must be borne with strength and endurance. But they will learn, just as you did. They will grow up in this world, a world that has not changed, and they will live the same life you have lived, the same life their ancestors lived before them. The circle is unbroken. The cycle of life continues. And you, like those before you, will endure. Because in this world, to endure is to survive. And that is all that matters. As the world outside your hut slips into the deep quiet of the night, a profound stillness takes over, but your thoughts continue to swirl. The cold has settled in for the long haul, pressing its icy fingers against the walls of your home, making every part of the day feel like a small struggle against nature itself. But amid the harsh realities of your existence, there's a quiet understanding, an unspoken truth that binds you to this world. The struggle for survival is not just physical. It is spiritual, emotional, and deeply ingrained in the rhythms of life. Every moment of your day is shaped by the constant fight against the elements, the hunger that never fully fades, the cold that always lingers, the work that never seems to end. And yet, in the midst of it all, there's a strange, quiet resilience that keeps you going. It's a resilience that is passed down through generations, a silent strength that allows you to endure in a world that seems designed to break you down. You think of the generations before you, the ancestors whose lives were no different than your own. They too fought against the same cold, the same hunger, the same struggles. Their lives, like yours, were shaped by the land, by the work that had to be done, and by the harshness of the world around them. And yet, despite the hardships, they survived. They passed down their knowledge, their traditions, and their ways of living to you, so that you, too, could carry on. This cycle, this endless loop of life and labor, has existed for centuries, and for many peasants, it seems to stretch into infinity. But for a moment, you allow yourself to reflect on what survival truly means. Is it about enduring the cold and the hunger? Is it simply about making it through each day, one step at a time, and surviving another night in your cold, uncomfortable bed? Or is there something deeper to it? Perhaps it is the knowledge that, despite everything, you are still here. Despite the lack of comfort, the endless toil, and the constant fear, you continue. Your body aches, your mind is weary, but your spirit endures. You survive, and in that survival, there is a kind of quiet triumph. Even in the midst of the harshest struggles, there are moments when life shines through. They are fleeting, these moments of joy and beauty, but they exist. The laughter of your children as they play by the fire, the soft warmth of the sun on your face after a long day's work, the sight of the first buds of spring as the snow melts away. These moments, though brief, remind you that life is not just about survival. It's about living, about finding meaning in the smallest of things, and about making the most of what little you have. You think of the people around you, your family, your neighbors, those who share in the same struggles. You are not alone in this fight. Everyone in the village, everyone in your community is in this together. There is a bond, an unspoken connection that ties you all together in this shared experience. The work may be yours alone to do, but you are part of something larger. The support you offer one another, the quiet solidarity that forms between the families of the village, is a vital thread in the tapestry of survival. Without it, without the help of others, the struggle would be even harder. And yet, despite the bonds of community, there is a loneliness that lingers. It is the loneliness that comes from knowing that your life is not your own, that your choices are limited, that your fate is largely out of your hands. You are at the mercy of the seasons, the weather, the Lord who owns the land, and the demands of survival. Every day is a test of endurance, a question of how much you can take before you break. And for most, the answer is simple: you endure, because there is no other choice. The medieval peasant's life is defined by hard work, sacrifice, and struggle. It is a life without luxury, without comfort, without moments of true peace. But it is also a life of resilience. The very act of surviving, of enduring, is what defines the peasant's experience. In a world that seems to offer nothing but hardship, survival itself becomes a form of triumph. It is a triumph of the human spirit, a quiet, uncelebrated victory against the forces of nature, society, and circumstance. As you lie in your bed, the cold creeping into your bones, and the exhaustion of the day settling over you like a heavy cloak, you realize that you have lived a life of quiet strength. The world may not recognize your efforts, may not acknowledge the toll it takes on you, but you know that you have survived. That survival, in its most basic form, is enough. It is a reminder that you are here, that you are part of the unbroken chain of life that stretches back through the centuries. Tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. The cold, the hunger, the work, it will all return. But for tonight, As you close your eyes and surrender to the restless sleep that awaits you, you can take solace in one thing. You have endured another day. And for a peasant in the Middle Ages, that is enough. The journey we traveled tonight through the harsh and unforgiving world of medieval peasants is one that is often left untold. It is a life of relentless struggle, of work that never ends, and hardships that never fade. But it is also a life of quiet endurance, a life shaped by the rhythms of the land, by the forces of nature, and by the unyielding will to survive. This journey, though harsh and filled with suffering, is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the night settles in and you finally surrender to sleep, you are reminded of the complexities of the life you've experienced. The medieval world was not one of comfort, nor one of ease. It was a world where survival was not guaranteed, where every day brought new challenges, new obstacles, and new battles to face. But despite the overwhelming odds, peasants like you endured. They survived, and in surviving, they made their mark on history, even if that mark was never written down or remembered by those in power. Tomorrow, you will rise again, as you have every day before. The cold will greet you, the hunger will return, and the work will never stop. But tonight, in this brief moment of rest, you can take a deep breath and reflect on the quiet strength that has allowed you to make it this far. It's not the strength of muscle or might, but the strength of endurance, the ability to keep going, to keep working, and to keep surviving, no matter what. This strength has been passed down through generations, and it will be passed down to your children, who will, in turn, pass it on to theirs. Though your life may seem small in the grand tapestry of history, your survival is an act of resistance against the forces of nature, the powers that seek to break you down. You are a part of something much larger than yourself. The cycle of life, of birth, of labor, and of death continues, as it always has and will always be. But within this cycle, there is life, there is love, there is work, and there is hope. These are the things that make survival worth it, even in a world that often offers little in return. As the fire burns low in the hearth and the wind howls outside, you drift off to sleep, knowing that tomorrow is another day in the long journey of survival. But there is a sense of peace in this, because for all the hardship, for all the struggle, you are still here. You are still alive. And that, in itself, is a victory. The world may not remember you, but your endurance is a story worth telling. The struggle, the work, the sacrifice, it's all part of the human experience, part of the story that connects us all, across time, across generations. And so, as the world outside remains cold and unforgiving, you find solace in the quiet knowing that you are part of an unbroken chain of life, an enduring story of survival that stretches back through the centuries. Your survival, your life, your journey, they are a reflection of the countless others who have lived and struggled in the same way. In the grand scheme of things, you may be just one small thread in the tapestry of history, but your survival means something. It means that against all odds, you endure. And that endurance, that quiet resistance to the forces of the world, is what makes the peasant's life a story worth remembering. The work is never easy, the struggle never ceases, but in the act of surviving, you find the truest form of strength not in the absence of suffering, but in the ability to carry on despite it. Tomorrow, the cycle begins again. The cold will come, the work will never stop, and you will rise once more to face another day. But tonight, as you sleep beneath the woolen blankets, surrounded by the warmth of your family and the flickering light of the fire, you can take a moment to rest. For you are a survivor, just as those before you were. And as long as you endure, you continue the story of those who have lived,